Hello everybody, Perigi here, and in this tutorial we're going to create these two UI designs in Figma. Now I also want to remind you that I'm going to leave a link in the description where it's going to take you to the source file as well as an entire free training on how to get started in a UI UX design in 2021. Now, I've been a UI UX designer for over 8 years now, but now without further ado, let's get started and let's go jump in the tutorial. So let's start by creating a frame, and the very first thing that we're going to select is the first option, which is iPhone 11 Pro Max. However, feel free to choose also the other ones, it's totally fine. So for this, for the time being, let's actually change the background. So we start getting into the theme in a much easier way. So I'm actually wondering if something around these lines could work. Yeah, let's go for it. So this is just an aesthetic change. We're also going to rename the artboard right here. So let's go ahead and let's start adding some text. So at the very top, we're going to add the date, which is going to be the 3rd of January and 2022. Let's look into that, and let's select a font, which is a free Google web font, which is Lato. A font that we've been using quite often in the past, so let's go ahead and let's do that over here. And I want to use rounded numbers for the fonts as much as I can. Now, alright, so far so good. Now we're going to use the rectangle tool, which I use the shortcut R, but you can simply click over here and you're going to be able to access it. And let's go ahead and let's create a background for this right here. So maybe we're going to go with something light, trying to figure out if you want also like complete rounded borders. And as you start, actually let me do one thing. I'm going to change the background since I don't want any interferences with the colors of the background when it comes to the colors over here for the time being. Then we're going to change it again, but I think for now it's going to work just fine. All right, actually let's make this one not fully rounded, but something around these lines. Okay, and now what we're going to do is we're going to create the selectors, so the different dates, and we're going to add the first one here, which is going to be Monday, and we're going to add the date. So the date is going to be, let's center all of these. So the date is going to be just a tiny bit bigger. This one is going to be 01, and we're going to make the color more towards a gray tint. However, let's keep in mind the blue that we have over here, and let's go ahead and bring this one up just a tiny bit. And I'm going to duplicate this just a few times so that we cover pretty much all of the days of the week. I'm going to group it before doing that just to make it easier. All right, so far so good. And let's see how much distance between, and I'm using the option key in order to see the distance. So this is 25, this is 23. So let's add 2 more. With the option key, you can see that essentially you can see all of these distances very easily, and something that I use all of the time, especially when I want to create something without using the grids like we're doing in this example. Now, past videos we use the grids all the time, but in this one we're going to freestyle just a little bit more. However, if you want to use the grid, that's totally fine, and it's actually a best practice to use. So definitely you cannot go wrong by using a grid, which is going to enable your design to be more consistent within and create a solid design system. So that's that. All right, so far so good. I'm still not 100% sure about the color of this guy. Be a little bit more on the light side. I'm just trying out something that isn't like too flashy or too on the blue side. All right, so far so good. Now what we're going to create here is essentially a selector. So let's select this guy right here. I'm going to make it 6 by 6. And all right, so far so good. Change the color. Going to make this one white. And this one is going to be white as well, but with 50% of opacity. All right, this is looking pretty good so far. Let's add a little bit of more padding on the top. And yep, here we go. So another thing that we're gonna do is we're going to use our good old Nucleo icons again. We're going to search for a calendar. Now, as you can see, we have the basic calendar in Google Material Icons, and you can totally use that. However, I'm going to have a look at what the Nucleo offers when it comes to the calendar, and probably going to just use a different design. So maybe something around these lines could look cool, but alternatively, if you don't have Nucleo, simply use the Google Material Icons, and that is going to work as well. Of course, we're going to unframe it and probably going to make the stroke just a little bit bigger, 1.7. Yeah, that will do the trick. All right, so far so good. Now it's time to add the actual calendar of the current date, which is Wednesday, and we're gonna do that right below over here. So I'm actually going to applicate this. So we're going to add some data in just a moment, and let's go ahead over here. Let's add a line. All right, so far so good. Let's add a gray line and make it even lighter. So something around these lines would work perfectly. And now we're going to create different lines really in order to essentially cover multiple times of the day. At the very end, we're going to add some other icons, since that's going to be the menu. All right, so let's start with the first one. 7 a.m., 8 a.m., 9, and so on. I'm sure I don't need to repeat each and every one of these values, as they're self-explanatory. 12, 13. Oh yeah, of course there's 13. I'm actually wondering if all right, so far so good. And this is the reason why you should always have coffee in the morning, not like I done today. All right, so far so good. And probably going to make it a little bit smaller. Yeah, that will work. Let's go ahead and change the color just to make it very, very light. Not too light that the user is not going to be able to see it clearly, but still want to keep it quite on the light side. All right, so far so good. So let's go ahead and let's try and figure out a color which can work well. And I'm still not sure about this the color as a whole. This tint is a little bit better. I like it more. So maybe let's suggest the same for this guy right here. Feels like one of those aquamarine colors. All right, and one thing I would want to do is to have the lines below. I don't really like the line going above. So it's just something to keep in mind. I want to round these guys up so that they match. So this one is 9. This one is going to be 9 as well. And actually, I'm not too sure about it. I want to give it a little bit more of a rounded feeling. So yeah, that looks better. All right, so far so good. Let's add the very first thing, which is going to be meeting with CEO and product team. And let's left align this. All right, so far so good. Just want to add a little bit more of a contrast in order to make the text more visible, and also the color a little bit more saturated. Yeah, looks pretty good. Let's try heavy. Yeah, let's go with heavy version. And all right, so far so good. This would be the very first item of the day. Let's just make this block a little bit bigger. And now let's go ahead and let's create another commitment. So I'm just gonna go over here and add a second one, which is going to be product launch with marketing. And let's go ahead and let's create some other ones. Let's bring it up. Okay, let's do a very long lunch meeting. We're going to have all sorts of discussions, and before the lunch meeting ends, we're going to create a secondary commitment, which is going to be get book from the shop. All right, let's make this one darker just to create a visual differentiation between these two. And I'm probably going to try and go with a slightly different layout. All right, so far so good. For some reason I don't like the fact that it's not going all the way to the bottom, so let's adjust that. And there we go. All right, so far so good, I would say. And the very next thing we're gonna do is we're going to add some icons at the very bottom. So I'm just going to remove this this search right here, and I'm going to go and use some of the colored icons from Nucleo, and I'm going to try and match the colors to the actual layout, but for some reason I'm not really feeling it now that I'm adding them up. Just trying to see if like color icons would make sense, but as you can see, I'm not really 100% sure about this, so we're just going to go with regular outline icons, and let's give it a shot. Let's make these ones all the same. I'm going to add this one, and actually let's go with bigger ones. How does the stroke work? Okay, cool. We're gonna add this one as well. So as you can see, we're just trying to figure out like some icons which might work well in this context. We don't really have an agenda for this app, so we're quite free of when it comes to the actual choice, and yeah, we have the freedom to pretty much do whatever we want. So that's pretty good. Right, we're gonna move the house in the center. Now the way I like to arrange these icons is essentially centering them, then using the distribute horizontal spacing, and I'm going to essentially make them smaller. And as you can see, all of these are in frames. I'm just going to unframe them and double check that everything is pretty much in line. Okay, so far so good. This one should be smaller, so this one here, and yeah, apart from that, I think these are looking okay. And we're actually going to use the same color right here, and let's use the distribute horizontal spacing. Let's just make all of these smaller, of course. Let's change also the colors. Actually, let's go over here. Let's just extract the same color, and maybe actually let's use let's extract the colors from here, so the tint is going to be similar, and we're going to actually do the same for the top calendar. Let's bring this one here and this one here. Let's distribute them and locate them at the button. And I'm actually going to go ahead over here and add just a small, or actually a prominent overlay over here, so that it's clear that this icon is selected. Cool, so far so good. Now let's create a variation of the screen. And what I'm gonna do is I'm actually going to change the background. As you can see now, it looks pretty nice. And what we're gonna do right now is we're going to create a dark version of this current screen. So we're going to sample the color, and we're going to go ahead here and yeah, maybe just keep it like this. We don't want to make it too dark. And of course we need to change this to white, as well as these guys. And we're going to select this, change the color. And this one as well. Maybe let's make it 14. So yeah, so far so good. It's looking pretty interesting. So here we have another variation of the screen. Another thing we could potentially do is also change the colors right here of these elements. So maybe we can aim at something around these lines. Maybe change the these ones to a green, and create a variation of this green. So as you can see, you can easily go ahead and create different different versions of this in a pretty fast and efficient way once you have a solid base. And yeah, that's pretty much it. So I hope you enjoyed this tutorial, and I'll see you in the next one.